We're here, folks. We are here. We are live for a very special free edition of the Hulbert House Show. What an occasion. What a moment. What a happening. I hope everyone is well. Beautiful Monday afternoon. Monday evening, depending on where you're at. It's 9 p.m. here. It's a big day. Tonight we're doing a little Lost Colliders action. First one of those if you're a Colliders Unite fan. Or to remember, I should say. Lock in for that. We're going to be head-to-head with Monday Night Raw. That is not our focus here today. Our focus here today is really quite different. Very, very different. Today, we are here to just discuss what was a triumphant weekend for this brand. I asked Rice Man 2 weeks ago to make this graphic, fully aware of the possibility that it could entirely backfire him, just be a waste of his time. But it was not. It was not. For once, things went our way. Tremendous night, Full Gear Grin along. We hope everyone that watched with us had fun. We had an awesome time on that show. You know, afterwards, after the show, I did a sincere post about how great I thought the show was. And people thought I was doing a bit. And that was the first time I realized that people didn't like the show. I thought the show was awesome, legitimately awesome. I mean, obviously, their shows are long, but I also kind of know what I'm getting at this point, and it is what it is, right? Just, you know. But, I still thought it was a great wrestling pay-per-view, which we'll talk about as we go here. So yeah, we had an awesome night. Much happened. The way this program works, as you've not seen a Hulbert House Show, the Hulbert House Show is a staple of LNG Gold. Every week on LNG Gold, I go live just like this, solo. In the same vein, I used to do this on the YouTube quite often, free. When we launched Gold, it became part of Gold. But I thought it would be a good time to do a free version, you know. Just bring it back. We have 50 grinners here out the gate. You can do the smashing of the like button and all that Bob always talks about. But the way this show works is, it's basically your show. This isn't a thing where you have to send super chats, though they're always very much appreciated. Especially in the holiday season. But you don't have to send super chats. You just put a question in the chat, and I will answer it to the best of my ability. Unless I miss it or feel like I don't have an answer, then I'll duck it. But if I feel like I have an answer, I will bring the comment on the stage. Actually, I can do this. Hang on a second. Let's see if I can. Let's make it slightly. It's a little too much. And that's the play. Right there. All right. So I'm going to work through the chat. If you have questions, fire away. This is very much a hangout. I'm going to be here for 90 minutes or so. And yeah, that's the plan. I will lead with my kind of broad take on the matter. I mean, it's obvious, but, you know, beyond all of the chicanery and such, which I think you're allowed to, you know, I think there's something to be said for just being a fan sometimes, just saying, you know what, I was really happy with how the show turned out because the wrestlers I liked are going to be featured more. I think that's okay. And in fact, that's healthy and good, I think. I rewatched the two matches that were, you know, important for our brand, the FTR match and the Samoa Joe match. Well, FTR and Brodito was just magnificent. I thought they stole the show. Great pro wrestling match. Loved the way it was built around Bandito as this main character, this defiant, gutsy babyface. I loved it. I loved that match. I thought Joe and Hangman was really good. I wish the crowd was, you know, not yawning because they'd seen so much. That just is what it is. Again, I'm not here to do the length of show discourse because I think at this point, everyone stands where they stand and it just is what it is, right? It would have been nice if that, you know, wasn't at 12:15 or whatever it was, but what are you going to do? I thought the match they had before the shenanigans was awesome. Just punches and blood and hatred and spite, and it was a really nasty affair. I mean, Joe's Crimson Mask is going to be kind of the defining image coming out of that match, even with the admittedly hilarious hook business. So yeah, that's where I'm at on that deal. I think, you know, the response to these things is always kind of interesting, in that wrestling's a weird beast now, right? There's like a mix of reaction in the sense that it feels very, very patronizing to say, well, people are mad. They're supposed to be mad. He's a heel. It feels patronizing because some people are not mad for that reason. They're mad because they feel like their guy wasn't served correctly as champion, wasn't given his due as champion. And that's a conversation worth having. And I think there's truth to it. I also do think there is an element of like, you know, there's an element of color and extreme edge and violence to the takes. There's a little much, I think, for the circumstances, just to be honest. Obviously, I'm biased, but at the same time, I don't know, man. I think the long reign kind of widespread surge of just longer reigns is an issue. But that doesn't mean there's not valid criticisms to how Hangman was used when he was champion, right? So we'll tackle all that and more before we dive into the chat itself. Our guy Arvo has been a member for 14 months. That at some point would you be able to do recordings, timestamps for any Discord grinning? I think Discord grinning, we were recording some of them, but I don't know if that's going to be a thing that's long. So basically, the way we're using Discord now is different, slightly different. It's more casual than ever, so I can't know for sure people are going to be in there to record. When we do something that's more like, you know, Cena Saturday or June's Violent Night, those will be recorded for sure. So it'll kind of be case by case. But I appreciate that. I also appreciate 5-0 coming. Cheers, Bazball, Travis Head forever. Just glorious England performance over the... He hasn't won in the weekend, right? Didn't make it that far. Thank you, Arve. Appreciate you. Last has been a member for 8 months and says these FTR guys continue to be very, very good, it seems. That's why I hear. I quite like them personally. I don't talk about it a lot, but, you know, I genuinely think their catalog, and I kind of hate that word because it becomes like a maths equation, right? How many matches above an 8 do you have? You know, that kind of shit. But their output and their body of work, we'll say, I do think as we get further removed from it when their story is complete, God forbid, hopefully not anytime soon, they're a historically great team. I don't think that's a Hulbert bias take, and that's just the truth at this point, personally. But, yeah, they were terrific. As I read Tape's review, and he was just like, man, these guys are still the best team in the world. And I'm on the same page as him in that regard. Obviously, him and I are FTR guys. We are biased, but you're supposed to be biased. We're wrestling fans, right? Thank you, Elias. Dukes. I met with Dukes on, what day was that? Thursday, before the incident. And we caught up. It was fun. He's been a member for 10 months. He says Bandito should win the World Heavyweight Championship. I actually agree he should be, like, lined up for something really big next year. I definitely agree with that. I'm not sure the world title will be in that kind of outline, but I don't disagree. If they put the belt on him next month, I wouldn't argue at all. All right. I'm going to work through the chat from the start. And so the way the StreamYard works is there are ones that have the little question gimmick. I'll do some Nakanishi here. Our guy, Big Fat Orange Cat, showing love to the defiant last stand of Bandito, which got a great reaction. Amazing piece of business. And I see everyone fired up in the chat, but I'm going to look for, because we're free and we have more people here than usual, we have 60 grinners. I'm going to look for the little question gimmicks. That's my plan. Hulbert House Show, solo affair. Every Monday we try and do these. I pretty much have been doing it consistently. Our guy Tope's receipt, how was the pay-per-view? I love the show. Not everyone did, but I love the show. Which is part of why I'm so fired up to be here. Kian is a new member here for LNG Gold. Appreciate you, brother. There's a lot of great stuff at Gold. Starts at $1.99. This show is available for $1.99 every week. A plethora of wrestling content, it must be said. A plethora. The Lost Colliders tonight, doing a little special for Collision viewers. We also have coming up an LNG Productions upload, so much happening here. All right. What do I have here? Yeah, so the hook part of this ordeal is the part that I think people are most aligned on. So, in terms of purpose, I think Hook as a heel, shit talk, I don't know about shit talking, but kind of smug heel that's protected by these huge mammoth, shooters and badasses, I think is the right role for him. Whether you should launch that in the main event of a pay-per-view is the part I'm not as sure on. And by not as sure, I mean I'm pretty confident it was not the right play. I don't know if I'd have gone so heavy on Hook. It made more sense once you knew they had something else up their sleeve with Swerve. But the Hook part of it is the part I'm not as keen on, definitely. This is my third favorite pay-per-view they did this year. Probably would have been second if the crowd wasn't so burnt out by the final third. It was tough. I think the biggest victim, I thought, because the Joe match had the surprise of the title change, right? And the blood. The biggest victims were Chris and Mercedes, who had a good wrestling match, no question, but a match that it's really hard to go out there and have a limb work match at, 11:45 p.m. while people are wondering what train they can get and whether their kid's going to make it home without falling asleep. It's just, every time with these pay-per-views, there's going to be a victim. And they were in the firing line this time around in terms of the limb. They still had a good match, and you can only do so much, but it is what it is. That's their approach, and their approach is very much give every match a chance to swing for the fences, and they kind of embrace the excess. And I think, look, whatever I think of that, and whatever you think of that, it's the most successful part of their model, right? The pay-per-view part is their most successful, consistent thing. So clearly, the audience is satisfied with these shows that go beyond the live audience's peak. That doesn't mean you're not allowed to have an opinion on it. I have opinions on it. I'm not always in love with the approach. I thought Saturday's show would have benefited from just slight adjustments to the placement. I also think even just getting the card back to 350, 345 would be a nice thing now, because we're starting to live in this 4+ territory, So, it's an interesting one. Speaking of Christmas, we're about to announce our holiday special for LNG Productions here in the next week or so. Yeah, the reaction online has been interesting. So, one thing that's been really fascinating is I think this is the most split I've seen the online audience. We often do this split of the people in the buildings and the people online. That's a thing we do a lot, whether it be AEW, WWE, whatever it is. We go right, the people that are at the shows are feeling this way, the people online are feeling this way. Can we marry those? Is there an overlap there? This was quite different in that this was a split within the online community, right? This was I saw a lot of responses to the show that were real excitement, and people were happy they did something different and they pulled a surprise. I will say, I personally do think, beyond Hangman Joe and anything else, and of just talking about this broadly, I do think there was value in AEW doing a surprise title change, because if you think about AEW's title lineage, they generally are a promotion that telegraphs the title change. Right? When the belts are switching for the most part. Certainly, I think so. And I do think there's value for keeping the fans honest. Now, again, whether that means this was the right time to do it, everyone will have their own opinion on that. But I think there is real value to getting a little bit more loose with flipping these belts and such. So, it was, to me anyway, it was one of Tony Khan's more bold calls, what he did. I think it's always, the cliche of what is that stupid thing that Paul said? The story never ends. I don't know about that, but there is absolutely truth to what happens next is most important, right? There's a world in which Hangman wins the belt back next month. Is that the world I expect us to live in? No. But there's a world in which it happens. There's equally a world in which in 6 months Hangman is with the Elite again. And that world is a lot less appealing to me from the Hangman Adam Page point of view, right? So and the next thing is the most important thing. To me, the length of the title reign is whatever. It's more the way he's used broadly. And him and Swerve being allied at the end there, was important to the AEW audience, no question. It got a great reaction. So we'll see. I had a great weekend. I wish the Ashes extended another day. I was really just enjoying watching it. But it did not. It was a 2-day Ashes match, which is hilarious. But I had a great weekend nonetheless. Rank this past week's JHP victories from worst to best. Dolph's return. Joe's title win, FTR's title win, JC's title win, Dango's #1 contendership. It's an excellent point. Excellent question, I should say. I think in that's tough. That's really difficult. I think in at 5 it has to be JC. It just feels like it's time for JC to be on the main roster, and I also didn't watch. I caught up on it, but I didn't know it was happening on Tuesday. I thought it was a takeover match. So JC would have to be 5. In at 4 would have to be Dango. That is a big one because that means on the Grin next week, I will be able to watch that match live on the flagship after we do Ring of Honor. So I will be locked in for that. In at 3, we got to go with FTR's tag title win. Big triumph, but one that we kind of expected. We kind of felt it was time. We kind of felt it was, it was happening beforehand. We were confident until the day of the show. And so that'd be 3. There's also, we have to be real about the looming threat, but we'll leave that for another day. Number 2 will be Ziggler at the Garden. That was a magical piece of business. I really thought that was actually pretty powerful. I know we do a lot of silliness on this channel, but the Garden is such an iconic venue, specifically for WWE purposes, and he is, for better or worse, and I think we've seen the latter at times in the last 2 years, a WWE guy, right? He was on that roster for a ridiculously long time. It was cool to see him get that reaction at the Garden. I thought it was really neat. And obviously Joe at #1. We keep thinking this over, man. I did a post when he wrestled Moxley in the cage. I said something like, this could be Joe's last world title match. And here we go again. It's just, I mean, look, this isn't going to surprise anyone that's coming from me, but I try not to throw these things around. I really do think he is a generationally gifted and historically great pro wrestler. And while the match on Saturday was not a classic, I thought his performance in it was superb, for whatever it's worth. And look, I'm not always saying that, right? I wasn't even as high on the last Hangman match as some other people were. I just thought he was terrific on Saturday. He was like a wounded animal and was clearly outgunned, but never in a way that made him sympathetic. Amazing stuff. Brad asked about Moxley's promo and said he thought it was a profound performance. I think what Moxley's doing is incredible right now. I think he's so clearly locked into the intricacies of the story he's telling and the character that he's trying to develop, and not trying to, is developing. I'm intrigued where it goes. I have worries about, Moxley-less Death Riders, that worries me a little bit, or Moxless would be easier to say. But his promo was terrific, and I am definitely intrigued what happens next. And we have to, it has to be said, by hook or by crook, fair or unfair, part of the story of Hangman's title reign was undeniably that Jon Moxley remained the main character of the show. And you can point to 1,000,001 things, and I get it, but from a performance point of view, you also have to give credit to Moxley for being a force of nature as of late. I mean, he has been superb. He's not my wrestler of the year because he got off to such a slow start. That's Bandito for me. But he still had a terrific second half to the year. You can't argue that. Loved it. Would you say the build-up between Hangman and Joe was a letdown? I would. I think they actually tried to, and I think this is something that I did pick up on, and people I think were kind of baffled at what I was saying, but I probably didn't communicate the best way. They kind of did this thing where they almost underplayed their own build in order to make it more of a shock, I think, was their idea. I could be way off on that. That's the feeling I got. Because you might, you could say, well, Tony's creative or AEW's creative isn't this, that. But here's the thing. You don't have to be Bill Watts to know that, you generally would have the heel get some heat there. They didn't have the heel get any heat. Because they were switching the belt, which is what I said last week, As a result, I did think it was kind of flat. There was some good stuff in there. I thought both guys had good individual performances, but it didn't have the edge that you'd have liked. I definitely think that's the case. Yeah, it's a tough thing. Like I said, AEW is an issue with fans going, I loved X, but I wish they were doing better with Y. For years, it feels like just enjoy yourself. Sometimes. It's a tough one. It's, it's part of how we engage with pro wrestling now, right? It's a lot of us do engage with a critical eye. I think that's cool. And nothing wrong with that. But I do think it can, and I'm as guilty as this anyone, but I think it can result in kind of, I like what they did, but I wish they did what, I wanted them to do instead, which is fine. But it's a weird beast, definitely. Trying to figure out why every individual is mad. Like, there's a difference between the 12-year-old kid that saw Hangman lose and was like, that's bullshit, I hope he kills Samoa Joe, and the guy that's like, I don't want to watch Dynamite anymore. Both valid, just very different. Very, very different. JJ Williams in the building. Took up some beautiful photos. The thumbnail for this, in fact, was some JJ Williams. Go support JJ's on the coffee gimmick. One of the greats. One of the greats. I agree. 50-minute cage match. Just punches, aggression, physicality. You gotta love it. Joe, has there ever been a more it's so over, it's so back, it's so over than the first Test of the Ashes? It was insane. I know a lot of you guys aren't cricket fans. You don't even know what cricket is. It was one of the most unique games of cricket I've ever seen. At lunch on day 2, although England had the game in the palm of their hands, they had lost by the evening. It was insane. Unconfirmed is once a month. Confirmed Shoot and I have spent about 2 hours talking wrestling on Friday night. That is also on the $1.99 tier alongside this show every single week. Can you foresee a third match where Hangman gets the belt back, or is this it for the time being? I think they're going to do something with multi-man where they're both in, but I don't see Hangman getting the belt back. I could be wrong. Certainly could be wrong. If AEW isn't going to change the length of shows, I think the best thing they could do is take cues from Double or Nothing this year and have the least important match be the semi-main event. I do think putting the elite trios in between Mercedes and Chris in the main event would have helped Mercedes and Chris. Yeah, I also don't know if it needed to be 20 minutes long, to be completely honest, but, I get it. Especially with the post-match. That was really what it was about, right? The post-match was most important. Speaking of being important, folks, tomorrow we have the JBL Grin Grappler, and on that show I'm going to ask Bob to tell you something. He's going to tell you to smash the like button. And at this point, without Bob, I will tell you, please smash the like button. The major victories of Full Gear. I love that we're now talking like a political party, a cult here at the Grin. We're doing our thing. When evaluating wrestler year, does the amount of dates work factor into your decision making? If wrestler A has slightly higher cage match rating but has worked half the amount of dates, does that factor into anything? I think it absolutely matters. I think how present someone is matters. There are some wrestlers now, more than ever, I think, that feel like guests in their own promotion. I think that would be my biggest thing with comparing Mercedes and Tony. Is like Mercedes had a lot of good matches, but because of the way she feels in AEW, it's hard for me to compare to Tony, who feels so central, I think it absolutely matters, and again, that's not necessarily a dates thing as much as the way it feels. So, case by case, but I do think it matters, even if less so now than ever, because let's be honest, almost everyone's part-time now, right? It's a different industry. So, not almost everyone, but you get what I mean. It's so TV-centric. Very different. I agree. I don't think I'm not sure Tony believes in a QB1. I hate saying fucking QB1. I hate that thing. But I don't know if he believes in that in general. I think he's going to just pass the ball a lot. If he does believe in it, though, I think it is a fair conclusion to say that he doesn't see Hangman as that guy. And I don't think that means that Hangman is like a failure or a loser or overrated or sucks. I think sometimes we get really kind of loose and fast with what it means to be the guy. It's hard, man. Really hard. I don't know if that's him. I think he's one of them. I don't know if he's the guy. It's not Samoa Joe, by the way. Let's be clear. He's there to get someone else, right? WCW Lives, another LNG Gold show behind the paywall. That one is at $3.99. We're currently in early 2002. Masawa has just dropped the WCW Heavyweight title. I promise all these things are happening. WCW Lives. It's a great series every week. We're locking in on that. Yeah, look, the FTR are not for everyone, right? I mean, it is what it is. Yeah. I think their style is polarizing for whatever reason. I think they've had an incredible year. I think, to me, they're the team of the year. I mean, they've done some amazing stuff. Lest we forget some of the TV, the Outrunners match and all that good stuff. Darby and Pac was my second favorite match of the night. For me, it went FTR and Brodito. It went Darby and Pac. And then there's like a kind of block of matches that I'd have pretty close. Personally, that's where I'm feeling. I agree. FTR had a great year. Heading to catch the C2 run goes since the IWGP champ. As I've been doing this for a while, this is an interesting one. I've generally, historically, when it's outside of their own promotion, they're very selective with IWGP champs doing jobs. So, like, maybe him and Okada both, go undefeated and meet in the final. Maybe it's that simple. It could be, right? I don't love that because that kind of would, like, make it a lot less interesting to me. So, yeah, I'm not sure. But I hope, like, there's a little bit more doubt to that. Or maybe they twist it and, like, Kyle surprises people and goes to the final instead, Thoughts on APA as a team when they've worked in any year outside? I think they would have, which would have been different, right? I think, I think they would have, the skits was very much suited to them. I think they could have had more real matches. If you look at their run, they hardly had any real matches because the Attitude Era was fucking hilarious. So, yeah, I think it would have, but it would have been very different. Like, do I think they could have had a 15-minute match with Tully and On? Absolutely, dude. Would it have been pretty? Maybe not, but it would have been damn sure physical. So, yeah, I think they could have worked in other areas. I just think that was probably the sweet spot for them presentation-wise, even if not match catalog-wise or whatever, Yeah, I've seen the Dom comparison for Hook. I've seen the Wheeler Yuta comparison for Hook. We'll see. I mean, I'm not a big Hook believer, but we'll let it play out. What else do we have here in our wonderful live chat? Some talk about the trios match, run the shows in the afternoon. I would prefer that, but I'm also very biased because for me, it's infinitely better. Almost 100 grinners in the building, folks. Let's get smashing that like button. Let's get to it here. I was watching the show with you and fell asleep during Kyle and Mark. I woke up as you were shouting, "The big man is back," and looked to my screen to see Smoke. I don't know if I should apologize or say, you're welcome. I don't know. I'd be interested in him and Kenny as a team again. I agree with that. As a short-lived all-star team, I'd like that too. I definitely would like that. I struggle with the Elite combining and all that. It just doesn't do a lot for me. I get why it's important and it matters to the AEW audience, but it just isn't something I care about. Wonder if they run back the triple threat. I think there's going to be more moving pieces than that. I feel like the right thing to do, though, even before we get to that, it feels like tomorrow's TV should start with, or Wednesday's TV should start with Eddie Kingston hijacking the show, right? It feels like this is a chance, more than anything else, to get Eddie some juice back, man. Like, Eddie should hijack the show to start it. He should be so mad at Hook. And I think you do some Joe and Eddie for a couple of weeks. And to me, that's the obvious play. This is a chance to actually get Eddie moving again, which has been, his return has been very pedestrian. Very, very pedestrian. So, yeah. All right. I'm curious if there's been much truth to the notion that Tony Khan doesn't fully believe in him. It's tough, right? It's like, that sounds like such a first take thing to say, of like, he doesn't believe in him, it's over. But I just don't know if there's a full alignment in how he sees Hangman and how some of the audience sees Hangman. And I say some, because there's definitely not all, but a lot of the audience, definitely. I think he sees him as one of the most important wrestlers in the promotion. I see him as one of the top guys. I just don't know if he sees him as, again, I fucking hate this, the QB1 thing, I think some fans saw this as Hangman just getting started as champion. I don't know if Tony ever looked at it that way. Maybe he did and he changed his mind. We'll never know, right? I doubt he's going to tell us. But, yeah, I think some of this it's in extremes, and, like, I get why. I'm just not convinced that, you know, Tony ever saw it as, like, he's going to hold the belt until June next year and then we'll figure it out. I don't know if Tony looks at it as, like, an ace situation. Whether he should or not, everyone can have their own opinions. But I don't know if he does. And I think at this point, it would be fair to draw that conclusion without it being a case of, like, he doesn't see any value in him. Of course he sees value in him. He's one of the top guys, right? Yeah, I'm in the same place. So this is the thing. I don't watch it closely, and I think everyone's entitled to their own. Number One Gunkel says, things felt a little stout to me, and I enjoyed Full Gear. It felt, to me, like a good chance to, like, shake things up a little bit and shock people. I thought it was important in that way, personally. Again, what they do next, I can't vouch for because I haven't seen it yet. But to me, I felt there was an opportunity here to mix it up, and I thought being babyface champion is tough. He's been the champion for 4 months. They didn't have a plethora of heels awaiting him. I think there's a lot worse things you can do than just put the belt on Samoa Joe for a month or two. Match on the main roster you'd most like to see JC Jane have. EO is a cheat code answer, but it probably is EO. Asuka is a heel right now. That's one I would like to see if she was a babyface. Obviously, her and Fallon versus Charlotte and Alexa is a big late night grin happening. Big late night grin happening. But EO is... I could be kind of a cool guy and try and pick someone else, but I'm not going to... It's EO for me. Yeah. I think she could have a lot... I mean, if I was on SmackDown, if I was booking SmackDown, I'd be fucking crying out for JC Jane and Fallon, for that matter. Yeah. I agree, man. I think it's kind of sick, the reaction to the title change. Like, people are reacting to it. They're passionate about it, right? It's pretty neat, if you ask me. Have you ever seen another wrestler who went from having a disastrous first half of the year to being a strong wrestler of the year contender like Mox? I don't know. I'm sure there's examples that I'm forgetting, but the opposite was, I mentioned this a few weeks ago, in 2023, Dave did a write-up on, like, Roman's first half of the year, and he was basically like, this dude's in the front, he's in the box seat for the rest of the year, he's got it, you know, he's already got it. If it carries on like this, he's won it. Because he had done, like, the Sammy match, which obviously was big business, the Cody match, the Bloodline stuff, which was big business, and he wrestled, I think, one more match that year. I think he wrestled Jey Uso and then wrestled LA Knight, was his 2 matches the rest of the year. So that's the opposite, I guess. But it wasn't a disastrous second half, he didn't really wrestle a lot. Granted, the Jey Uso match was pretty disastrous, but you get my point. I agree with this. AEW being the alternative means everyone sincerely believes it should be their personal alternative, and it's kind of unavoidable. I agree with that completely. AEW at this point, they've not been subtle. They've told, this is who we are. This is how we operate. These are the shows we run. This is how we run them. And at some point, as a fan, it's on me, and you for that matter, but me, you know, I'll talk for myself, you adjust accordingly, right? Okay, this is not going to be my thing necessarily all the time. But I'm going to watch the shows, and there's going to be stuff I love on the shows. You know, I think at this point, tuning into AEW Dynamite expecting it to be Mid-South is like, I mean, you can do that, but you can also run into a brick wall over and over again. I don't think it's going to feel any better, right? It's just, they are who they are. Some of it's great, some of it's less great, but they've been very clear and transparent with who they're trying to be as a wrestling company at this point, I think, personally. That's just me. All right. Yeah. I do think there's a, you know, especially WWE main event scene definitely feels like kind of stale. The AEW thing is interesting. There was something to the image of Hangman and Swerve chasing Joe that was like, you know, we've done this before, right? So that part of it, I do think is going to be interesting for them to navigate. I think they're going to have a fourth party is my presumption. I don't think they're going to go with just a triple threat again. Whether that's Darby or Max or whoever. Probably controversial, but not a fan of Swerve and Hangman linking up, especially this soon. It feels like after all the blood feuds, enemies should remain enemies for 3 years. Well, they kind of set the stage for it with the title change, right? I don't know. I'm torn on it. I'm kind of the Swerve Hangman thing. I kind of defer because there's an audience that's so into that whole thing, and I'm not like that audience. It's not something I think they should go too heavy on with them being like pals. I think them having respect for each other is fine. I think you should be careful with them just being like buddies. You know, it feels like a mistake. That's fair. Moxley is QB1, I suppose, but it's also a different type of thing in that Moxley, he isn't as front-facing in the way that a Cody Rhodes is, right? Certainly, you know, he does a lot of media and he's on all the shows, but even at his most ace of AEW, Moxley is a slightly different type of cat with a slightly different type of presentation and vibe than your traditional, you know, Hogan or Cody or Rock or even Austin, I think. He's always liable to be like, what if I do a program with Kyle O'Reilly, you know? But I agree with you. He is QB1 if such a thing exists. I agree with that. Definitely agree with that. What's the ceiling on each of the Death Riders? Were they to assume a leadership role? I'm not a fan of what the Death Riders has meant for Garcia thus far. It's kind of bummed me out, to be honest. I didn't want that to be his direction, and I've yet to be swayed from that stance with what he's done. So I think he would be a mistake. I think Wheeler Yuta is in the exact right role. I think he's good at that role, but that doesn't mean he needs to have an advanced or extended one. I don't think Claudio has the chops to be the leader. I think personally the choice for leader is pretty obvious. I think it should be Pac. I think Pac is a guy who, even after 6 years in the promotion, it does still feel like there's stuff to do with him because he's obviously missed time due to a range of very real reasons, to be clear. I think he's the guy who can still contribute more, especially with his promo and his kind of weird demeanor and approach to his character work and his persona and all that good stuff. He has the new look. He's working with more of an edge. I think Pac is the guy for the role. I still don't know if that's a world champion. I don't think it is, but certainly one of the many secondary belts. I think Pac would be a fitting champion once again, as we saw previously. Fletcher's dedication in the semis would make sense. I agree with that. Certainly. Tope will not be doing that, but I will say, because imagine I was like, oh, it sucks. I mean, there's like a 2% chance there, but it's still dangerous. This week, we're hoping LNG Productions, Survivor Series Draft, myself, Contrarian Alex, Buster, the great Chris Bourdime, and Bobby Two Shoes, trying to build our Ultimate Survivor Series team based exclusively on what the guys and gals have done at Survivor Series. So you got to think about it through that lens. Really fun video on productions coming up this week. Terrific stuff. And check out the Adonis video if you haven't already. Okay. For me personally, I see Hangman as the guy because of what he's done without the belt. For me, the guy is the one that resonates the most, and he's always been that. He's he's non-title stuff. Jeez, and he choked while reading about Hangman Page then. His non-title stuff is unmatched. Yeah, I get it. I completely get it. I think the audience connects with him big. He's done a lot of great stuff in AEW. I think there is a very easy argument to be made that he's the guy. No issues with that, no qualms with that. I do think it's always hard, right? Because look, was the creative perfect? No. Not even close. And I wish they had more heels built up for him, but they didn't. Because presumably Moxley was supposed to drop the belt later, and they would have had more time. Would be my gut feeling. I can't shake the gut feeling that he is a better chaser than champion, and that sounds more derogatory than I intend it to be. Because I don't think that's an indication of someone being a better or worse wrestler. I think that is a feel thing, and some of you will agree and some will disagree. Like it is what it is. I just can't shake that feeling. I think there is the Hangman story, the Hangman character, whatever your appeal of Hangman, whatever you see Hangman as, is different perhaps. To me, he is a guy who is best when climbing the mountain. Him at the mountaintop is a cool visual, and it's a nice payoff, but for me, it's always like it's time to start climbing again. Maybe that's reductive, maybe that's not fair to the story that could be told with him completing his own story. But that's just my gut feeling. We'll see what they do with him next. And it should be said, you can be the guy without being the champion for a year, as we're all aware, right? So again, if he wins about next month, he's still the guy. He just, did an Austin-esque switch. Brodito, Good Brothers this weekend. Wrestle Cade, right? Wrestle Cade. Yeah. Women's War Games match. Interesting one. The babyface team is an all-star squad, no question. I'm intrigued to see if there's a turn of some ilk. I don't expect a turn, but I'm intrigued to see if one happens. The obvious, example being Alexa on Charlotte. I don't see it just yet. I don't see it. I think babyface is up in that match, I think. It'll be interesting. So AJ Lee is, this is a... if the first match back was a pretty easy, kind of easing someone into it, casual way, and then they went 30 minutes, like, oh, this isn't so easy after all. This is an interesting choice because, yes, it's War Games and you can, protect people within that, but there's also just a level of chaos here that I'm very intrigued to see if can be captured by a wrestler who's wrestled one match in 11 years. We'll see. Hopefully she does great. But the babyface team, in terms of star power, the babyface team is unbelievable. Do you think the discussion regarding youth movement in wrestling is getting out of control? People are now acting like Punk and Joe have nothing to offer as champions in 2025, and I hate it. I hate this whole thing. I hate it so much. I despise it. I want to get rid of it. So, I definitely get being tired of top guys, the same top guys, and it is mostly the guys, let's be real. I mean, some people are insane enough to do this thing like Charlotte and Alexa and Asuka and Bayley or whoever, but I ain't addressing that. There's absolutely nothing wrong with being bored of the same faces. But it's not the age, it's how, repetitive they are, familiar they are as top guys. That's what's more important. The age is, to me, is completely irrelevant because it's fake, isn't it? Everyone feels different. There are some guys in AEW that feel really old to me. And that's just life. Nothing wrong with it. It's the way it is, isn't it? I don't think Samoa Joe is viewed as old by the audience at all. I don't think the AEW audience goes to shows and watches Samoa Joe and goes, oh, here he goes, another old guy. I don't think that's even slightly the case. I don't think Punk has that. I think Punk certainly could assist himself, or could be assisted, I should say, by creative, because I think putting him with other guys that are absolutely viewed that way is not a positive to him. But yeah, I think everyone's lost their minds a bit, to be honest with you. There's nothing wrong with wanting fresh faces, but my personal feeling, and I said this with Montel, we did a show a couple weeks ago on the Wrestle Purist paywall. My personal feeling is that whenever a wrestling mind, or even a sports mind for that matter, especially wrestling, because wrestling's a weird beast, when their big idea is just we need young people, get rid of all the olds, I think 9 times out of 10 that is just the words of a Charlotte and a Lyra con man, I think, personally. I think it's total quick fix bullshit. Yeah, man, you can give the ball to young guys. There's absolutely a place for that. This notion that you're supposed to just sweep up a bunch of older wrestlers because, people have Wikipedia and know how old they are. So I think it's ridiculous. Ridiculous. So I hate it. I also think it's hilarious because it's the same voices that are the least patient with young pushes, which always pops me. And I hate to blame the fans and do you people, but you guys know what I'm talking about, right? It's give new people a chance, then someone new gets a chance. It's well, hold on. So, being a top guy is hard. If you have guys that can contribute, no matter how old they are, if they can still contribute, then they should be fucking featured, dude. It's stupid. Absolutely stupid. Okay. 2 pay-per-views in a row, AEW pay-per-views that is, and my favourite match on both has been the World Tag Title match. World Tag Team Wrestling is a beautiful thing. Beautiful thing. I think I agree with you too. Brodito had a hell of a run. Hell of a run. I agree. Joe and Eddie does feel very Winter is Coming. I wonder if the UK show is going to be Winter is Coming. I wonder. They probably would have announced that, right? And advertised it. Would have helped with tickets, probably. I think Eddie and Mox as a team is inevitable. I do. I'm intrigued by like when they do this Edge and Christian thing. It isn't something I'm personally excited for. I would rather FTR drop the belts to Jet Speed. And I'm not even like a big Speedball Mike Bailey guy, but it just feels like the right thing for the division. We'll see. I don't know when Cope is done filming. So we will see. Okay. Yeah, it should be exciting coming out of Full Gear, really. Hopefully the TV is exciting. I mean, you have the C2 matches for a baseline, but let's do some angles on top of that. Let's get going. Okay. Chat, range of opinions in our chat today, folks. Range of opinions. Yeah, I like the Hogan Flair stuff. The 91 match is interesting because it very much feels like Flair doing Hogan's match, but like I also get it. It's the Garden, right? Colt's right. You should drop a like, chat. Yeah, drop a like. Hope the Ops get some good heat out of this. There was a range of reviews as to what type of heat they got on Saturday, but they definitely got heat. We'll see what reaction is on Wednesday. With the rumour of Ospreay and Hangman wanting the other to win the Owen, the endless Darby Death Riders feud, and now this, feels like Darby was the plan for Mox and Tony pivoted. Absolutely think that's the case. Absolutely think that's the case, yes. Mario, Joe, what do you think they do with the trios titles? Would love if they gave them to Roddy, Kyle, and Orange. Well, you got to find a landing spot for Kyle. I think that much is really important. I think you got to find something that makes this worth everyone's while. Moxley's done a great job with Kyle O'Reilly. Kyle has lived up to it with his performance. Now you got to find something for him to do to make it worthwhile, right? So, I don't know if that would be my pick. But I also don't know what the natural alternative would be. Babyface trios. I mean, look, as a match, Ops and Elite would be interesting. Alright? That would be interesting. But yeah, I don't have a strong feeling on that. That's an interesting question, Mario. You think the Swerve thing would have been done differently if Wardlow didn't get hurt? I mean, yeah, I'm sure there was a range of Wardlow happenings that, you know, did not pan out. Dude has insane luck, unfortunately. I agree. I think there's room to, you know, let those blood feuds heal a little more slowly. I agree with that. I think War Games has finally made me lose interest in WWE. I'll still watch. Who could possibly care about Cold War Games matches? Only match I care about is Team Sammy versus MFT, and it's on SmackDown. Yeah, that's I actually do want to watch that. Yeah, I want to watch that match. I like the Survivor Series matches a lot. The War Game stuff is, I just wish they built it with more like personality. You know, they've got so many personalities in the match, but they do it in a very, it's like they're trying to get like cheerleading teams, you know, volleyball teams, soccer teams, whatever the fuck. It's like that one of the promos they actually said we need 2 more members for our team. It's like, I don't know if that's how War Games should be presented, guys. I'm sorry. Okay. Cal was here. Hello, Cal. And there's an appeal to AJ Lee in that setting, but with Nia and the way last year went, I'm not particularly excited. I think the match will be a lot better than last year, to be honest. A lot better. It's a great offer here from JJ. Anyone wants to send him $500 for a flight? He will go to WrestleCade and cover the Good Brothers for LNG Enterprise. You can't go fairer than that. Just straight up. There you go, folks. There's the number. Boom. All right. I'm around 10 minutes behind our chat. Lyric's in the building. Hello, Lyric. I hope you're well. And thank you. Yeah, I think the Charlotte Rhea thing will probably be like the central thread of the match. I think the babyface is going to win, and it will be a case of like Charlotte proving she's changed, will be my gut feel. Look, I mean, you guys know where I stand on this. Personally, I wouldn't even be close to breaking up Charlotte and Alexa. I think it's insanity, personally. But they, I know they view tag team wrestling, and it is what it is. I think it's a perfect spot for both of them right now. But that's just me. That's just me. Yeah. Yeah, and I agree with this completely. And again, this is how... this is why I don't have an issue with people being upset about wanting fresh faces. It does get stale. They want to see new people pushed. That is completely normal. I just don't agree with the, kind of broad dismissal of anyone that's across 40. I just think that's insanity. I don't know at any point in wrestling history that's been the correct approach. I think that's also, late WCW, PTSD, where it's people just sweating bullets about 98 WCW. The problem with a lot of those guys was they couldn't contribute at the level they needed to. None of they were old. And also, look at what happened when it was the alternative, when Russo got the pencil, But I digress. I'm late-ish, but on the old guys, fresh faces thing, I think for Joe Punk on top is so much more fresh because of lost time with both Joe and Punk on top for different reasons. I think Punk especially. I don't think the WWE audience sees it as passe at all that he's the champ. I think they see it as exciting and overdue, right? Cope's show ends filming at the beginning of March. Well, in that case, we'd have a lot of time. We'll see. Yeah, the Kyle and friends with the trios belt thing makes sense. I was hoping he'd be in the C2, personally. I really was. Really, really was. I think Roddy will be the guy that attacked Mark Briscoe. I think they're going to work for the TNT title, but... I mean, I'd love to see him wrestle again. I would love that. I think Andrade will be back in the next month. That's just my gut feeling. Kenny and Joe is a match we've never got, or at least we haven't got in, since Kenny's been Kenny, It'd be awesome. Kyle in the C2 would be big. Unfortunately, he's out. They did the angle afterwards, which is a shame. Alright. C2 names coming out tonight. That'll be interesting. 100 of us could send JJ Fight. There you go. Coffee, brother. Hit the link. Google Trends talk in our chat. This is where we're at. You gotta love it. With the C2 this year, I hope they go back to the blocks being separated by show. Personally prefer to that. I did too. I think their fear is collision isn't important enough to do that, but I thought it was really cool. I liked it a lot. I think the men's War Games match could end up being incredible. I don't expect it to be at all. For it to be the worst version of it instead of the best. Yeah, to be completely frank, that's just not a saying I'm even... Let me have a look at the lineup. I just don't know if I want to... This is the issue we have Grin along-wise, is I don't know who my team is, and I don't know what we want to watch on this. So, I would like to see the Women's War Games match, because I like pretty much everyone in it, and, I'd like to see it. Nikki and Stephanie, I think, is a pretty weak match, because Nikki has been so... To me, anyway, her star power has been diminished for a range of reasons on this run, which is a shame. The men's War Games match, I just can't... I get there is an appeal to such an all-star squad, but, I find the way they interact with each other to be very, cold and robotic. It's the easiest way I can put it. And the heel team is just something I don't want to see ever again. I mean, there's some good guys on the team, but I don't know if I'm going to be tuned in for that personally. But I agree with you, it could be incredible. No question, there's some incredible talent in it. I just don't know if I'll be finding out. I think they should do Bayley and Lyra versus Rio to set up Kabuki's rematch post-War Games. Need something for Bayley and Lyra, man. They probably should have been involved in this whole thing, right? In some form or fashion. It's been strange. Alright, I think we're about caught up here. Is it All-Star? I don't know if that's some advice to say about that. Either way, I think we now have a final call for questions. We're coming up on an hour of this program. Before I get to any final questions, if I missed your question, feel free to repeat it. I may have just missed it. There's a lot going on in the chat, especially on a free show. Over 100 grinners in the building. You got to love it. The men's war games, yeah, I think the babyface team's an all-star team. The heel squad is not. We have just shy of 50 likes, folks. Let's change that if we can, please. We're one off. We're one short. One short. Yes, so before we go any further, when this show is done, I'll be making a post for LNG Gold members. And the post will be, it's LNG 50 time. Now, what is the LNG 50? The LNG 50 is a celebration of the wrestlers we most enjoyed watching in a year. 2025, obviously not complete yet, but we're pretty close, let's be real. I think everyone's going to have a pretty clear, stance on this. I don't think it's going to change dramatically over the next month. So we're going to open it up tonight for LNG Gold members. We're going to do a post for members. All you have to do, it's really quite simple, as Mike Tenay would say. You're going to list the 10 wrestlers that you enjoyed watching the most in 2025. That's all you need to do. And we want it to be a reflection of what you truly feel. You don't have to be a mathematician about it. You don't have to be scientific about it. You just got a list. These are the wrestlers I like watching this year. In order. It's very important, in order. Okay? We're going to do that for members. It's going to be a reflection of our gold members and their taste. But it's not going to just be members. We don't want to, close any doors. Everyone's, money's tight, especially if you're watching wrestling content. Let's be real, guys. But if you're watching this and you want to get involved, when this stream ends, you can comment below your LNG 50 ballot. And again, all your ballot needs to be is just a list of names. In order, 1 to 10, that you most enjoyed watching this year. That is as simple as it is. Then we will add up everyone's scores. And by the end, we'll have a 50 and we'll have some beautiful graphics, just like we did last year. I don't know if we still have any in here. I don't think we do. Maybe we have. No, we don't. But we had like magazine graphics last year. This year we have something slightly different. So yeah, it's just a cool way of capturing like this community, what they liked. It isn't supposed to be an official thing. Obviously, the Golden Grinnies, we're going to have Wrestler of the Year and all that stuff. And even that's not official, obviously, but you get my point. So I always dig, we used to do the Fleet 50, so this is our new thing now. We did it last year. We'll be running it back once again. So if you're not a member, you can comment below, all right? All right, I'm going to scroll up because there were some questions, and I'll work back down here towards the bottom of the chat. All right. Where does Chris go past Tony and Mercedes? I think she works with Tekla, and I think Marina Shafir is on the horizon too. I think Marina Shafir on the horizon, but Tekla is probably next. When are we getting a Harley Race Grin Grappler? So I'm all for it, okay? I'm all for Harley Race Grin Grappler. I am concerned. Hang on a second. I am concerned about Bob O'Neill. He is a very, very aggressive young man. Very aggressive. Very aggressive, and I fear that if I push this on him, he can lash out as he did about Arn Anderson all those years ago. However, I will try my best. When is Harley Race birthday? We try and go birthday months. Let's have a look here. What month was Harley's birthday? April. We will circle back to this in April. And Klein, if you're in the chat on that night, whatever we're doing at the end of March when we do a Grin Grappler, if you're there, we need to attack Bob as a unit. I'll get Alex involved. And we'll try and make it happen. If we didn't have a holiday show already locked in, we would just do it there. But we're doing the holiday with Hack thing, which is, going to be an adventure, no doubt. So, yes. I think Samoa Joe bloodied up my favorite visual from his whole career. It was unbelievable. When he spat the blood, oh my God, dude. After Joe and FTL won, did you say 180? Remember, I actually said, I don't know what I said. I know Confirmed Shoot said, we did it. Which was really, really funny. He said, we did it, Joe. Almost at 60 likes, folks. I appreciate you. Do we get an FTR Boom and Doom title match on one of these holiday shows? Or is the Boom and Doom title chase going to be an ROH thing? I think it's ROH, which means they're going to wrestle Roosh. Which is incredible. I think that's where it'll be. I think FTR are going to work with the Bang Bang Gang, right? Joe, the Dub has abandoned the much-awaited Shockwave. That's actually a thing I'd forgotten all about, which is sincerely now one of the more interesting chapters of AEW history. Top 10 in order, folks. In order. And if you remember, wait for the membership post. It'll go up as soon as this show's done. Wait for that. If you're not a member, you can comment below this video. Okay? If I want to put FTR in, do I put Cash and Dax to individuals? Yes, this is very important, actually. If you list FTR as your one, I will simply split them, and so your number 10 will drop off. So it's very important you're listing individuals. So you'd go Dax 1, Cash 2, or Cash 1, Dax 2, or Cash 1, Dax 6, vice versa, whatever you want to do. Very important, tag teams are individuals. If not, someone else on your ballot will be taken off as a result. Same question from Matt here. Again, individuals. LNG 50 hype. The Rock is in serious danger of dropping from my number 2 spot from last year. God, that would be tragic. It would be tragic. Poor Jay White. We miss him. We miss Jay White. So glad it's 10. I thought it was 5 and could only include the MFTs and had no more slots. Yeah, 10, I think we did 10 last year. Maybe I'm wrong. We're going to do 10. When we do matches, we do 5 because I think that's harder. 10, wrestlers is easy for 10, right? I will not be watching Penner and Solo. We're doing the Lost Colliders. I miss Jay White, Colt. I also need a Jay White action figure because I have Juice. And I want to like put them in the tag team department. I'm trying to build a tag team thing here. I see FTR, Briscoes, Usos, and Juice Robinson is just staying on his own. The Steiners, the Dudleys will soon be there. Oh, White 6. I do want to see the... I do kind of wish the 6 were the Survivor Series match, because that intrigued me. I couldn't help myself. It intrigued me. If FTR are number 10, we're in big trouble. We're in big trouble. Neither guy's going to get any points for that. It's just... You're messing with the system at that point, you know? I really am curious too. Yeah, really curious. And Rice is going to do some beautiful graphics as ever. So yeah, I'm excited for that. All right, folks. I think we're winding down here. Once again, any questions? Now's the time. We do this every Monday. I get more in the weeds, obviously, behind the paywall because this damn paywall there protect me from, you know, it could get scary on YouTube. But we had a hell of a house today. It's also a little bit of a throwback doing one of these free. But it was a good time. And we have a lot going on this week, which I'm about to explain here in a moment. Cash Wheeler's dives are legitimately some of the best in pro wrestling. Just started watching on my break. Hello. My question is, who is a wrestler from the 80s or 90s who would have thrived in a Continental Classic format? Damn, that's an awesome question. I mean, Arn and Flair immediately jump out in very different roles, right? Funk probably would have had the most different matches. Like, if you got middle-aged and crazy, the initial middle-aged and crazy Funk from 89, him in a Continental Classic with different talent would have been really interesting. But it's also hard not to think of, like, international guys, because with AEW's model, obviously, there's a bunch of international talents. You look at a guy like fucking Kawada, you know, or like Tenryu. You could go all day. Steamboat. Yeah. Arn Anderson's the one that popped me, because he could be like, you know, he could be 5th out of 6th, and it would still be awesome. Yep, chat said Hennig. Hennig's a good one. Okay. Would you ever do a New Day Grin Along? I think New Day will definitely get a Grin Grappler one day. I don't know if we're going to do an individual Grin Along, just because it would have to be circumstantial, like something like they split up or they leave or they do something and we'll do one. But they'll get a Grin Grappler eventually. I think they're one of the great WWE acts ever, personally. I mean, I'm kind of bummed out what they are now, but if you stick around long enough, that's just how it goes. I mean, you can't. It just is what it is. But they're an incredible act, legendary act. Yeah. I love the way they featured Brody in that match. And sometimes to feature Brody properly, you have to hide him. And you're not hiding him because he's incompetent. You're hiding him because otherwise he's just the fourth guy. Instead, he felt like the X Factor that they consistently limited the involvement of, right? I thought it was so awesome and so refreshing. Grin Grappler, definitely, yeah. Is there a Grin Grappler you would like to do a part 2 of? I think this is obvious. We talk about it too much on the channel, though, so it won't happen. The first episode was Joe. When we did it through the lens that Joe may be retired. He hadn't even joined AEW yet. He was the very first episode. I would like to do a Grin Grappler After Dark where we do just 3 matches from Joe's AEW run. And we just do it for members. That would be my pick. Because he was the first episode, and it's also like been kind of wild what he's done since then, right? That's where I'm at. Tongaloa action figure talk. I love it. I love it. Okay. We're about a year away from doing the WCW 50 where it's just WCW lives, guys. Superb. Will there be a Grin Grappler of Tatsumi Fujinami? I would like to do that. I think Oracle would really like to do that. Yeah, that's a really good idea. I'd like to do that. Is there a date for the Survivor Series drop? I think the plan is Wednesday in the same time we did last week. That's the plan. If it isn't that, because of Thanksgiving, we're probably going to go like Sunday after Survivor Series, to be honest, just because Thanksgiving. And so I'll get into my week now. So I have, after this, I have the Lost Colliders at 8 Eastern, which if you're on the Discord, you can find the Lost Colliders, which is very important. Tomorrow, I have WCW Lives, which is us booking Battle Bowl, which is going to be a Rob Van Dam vehicle. And then after that, at 9 Eastern, on this channel, free, we will be doing the... We did not show the intro, Tope, no. I didn't trust you, bro. You might put something crazy in there. We're doing Grin Grappler, John Bradshaw Layfield tomorrow night. 9 Eastern. Wednesday, hopefully, LNG Productions, Survivor Series Draft. Hulbert Hour on Self-Made. And I will be the host, unless something changes, of Talkin' Shop Live on Wednesday night. Machine Gun Carl Anderson is probably going to be out of action with Thanksgiving happenings. He may not be. He may find a solution. But he's probably out of action, so it'll be the big LG and I steering the ship on Wednesday nights. Talkin' Shop Live. Thursday, I have Collision on Thanksgiving night. It is on Thursday this week. I will be live for that. I do not celebrate Thanksgiving, although I'm very thankful to watch Collision. Friday, this is important. Myself, Adonis, the great Chris Bourdine, and I'm going to add one more name. Hopefully Buster, I'll text him after this. We're going to be doing Brand Supremacy on the flagship. What is Brand Supremacy, you ask? Well, it's really quite simple. Brand Supremacy is going to be fantasy booking exercise in which we just pick any 2 brands from wrestling history, lined up alongside each other, and we match make. So it'll be, for example, I'll say to Adonis, where do you want to start? And he'll say, right, let's start with 2015 New Japan versus 2015 WWE. And we'll just sit there and we'll figure out, okay, what's the best Survivor Series match we can do? Is there a War Games match we could do? Then we'll say, okay, my turn. Let's do 1991 or, WWF versus WCW, and we'll match make. And it will just be us kicking names around. It's going to be so nerdy and so inside, but I think it's cute. We could do mid-90s All Japan, New Japan. We could do Crockett WWF. We could do TNA Ring of Honor. We could do Dynamite vs. Collision in 2023. We can do all sorts of stuff. Even WWE vs. NXT in the mid-2010s would be a cute one, right? So it's just going to be a fantasy booking exercise and some fun. If we have time, we're going to watch a match at the end. That is my current plan. In fact, I have a few different ideas for that. We'll see. We'll let it play out. But the current plan is we might watch a match at the end or the start, depending on how things unfold. I'll keep everyone updated. But the show itself, Brand Supremacy, is the is the main point of the show. The core concept of the show. I don't know what's happening with the Survivor Series yet. I'll try and lock back in on that. I need to figure out where we stand. I also have some Saturday happenings that I need to work around, so we'll see. Sunday, I believe there is a Cage Match Chronicles, I believe. Maybe Puro Time Capsule. One or the other. Buster would know. Adonis may know. It's Kyle O'Reilly is the episode, which is very topical. Very, very topical. So it's going to be a grin along on Gold for members. So that is what's coming up on this very channel. We appreciate the support. We have a lot happening. In December, we have Adonis Big John Cena video where he's ranking 106 world title matches, which is ridiculous. We also have a holiday special that will be announced in the coming days, which is a pretty cool thing. And yeah, it's an exciting time to be a grinner. We have plans for next year even. There's much happening. And LNG 50 getting underway means we're almost at Golden Grinny's time, which means we're almost at Hall of Fame time. So it's a wonderful season to be a grinner. I want to stress again, if you're not a member, comment below. If you are a member, please wait if you can for the members post. All we need, folks, your 10 favorite wrestlers to watch in 2025. In order. The in order part is really important. So that's what we need. Please get involved. It's, when your favorite drops out of the top 30, you're going to be bummed out if you didn't get involved. The date for the LNG 50 show will either be December 19th or December 18th. The reason it is up for grabs is because I don't really want to go head-to-head with the Jake Paul fight. You may laugh at that, you may scoff at that. It's on Netflix. It will do around 50 million viewers. That's a mild guess. I think it will probably do more than that, actually. And I do not really want to be head-to-head with that. Now, could we do a grin-along? Maybe. But I feel that may be a Hulbert event. So it may move to Thursday, maybe the 18th. But we'll let it play out. All right? But it'll be that weekend. I want to give Rice as much time with the graphics as possible. So get your ballots in as soon as you can. And this has been awesome, folks. I really appreciate everyone's support. We had a fun weekend. Most people were very normal. I like the wrestlers I like. I'm not going to apologize for that. I do want to shout out, speaking of such, TNA uploaded it with ad break footage, which was very fun. I watched the Eric Young Dango match and had a hell of a time. That's a genuine recommendation. They had a really good pro wrestling match. Eric, what the fuck is Eric Young made of? He still bumps like that, man. I've never seen anything like it. It's unbelievable. He's got to be nearly 50, the man. I mean, where? Eric Young. Let's have a look at this before we go. We're gonna end it on Eric Young. He's only 45, I suppose. It's just the grey beard, but he can still fucking work, man. Oh my god. So good, dude. Alright, anyway. That was good stuff. Alright. I hope everyone has a great night. I think the Self-Made guys are on live soon. So that's happening. And then at 8, Colliders, if you're a Colliders Unite member, we'll see you there. If you enjoyed this, I do this every Monday for members. For $1.99, you can get that every week. $1.99 a month. So, yeah. If you haven't already liked the video, please comment your ballots if you're not a member. If you are a member, maybe comment something else. It helps us out, right? Comment like Joe Good. Could be about me or Samoa Joe. We both win. Yes, Eric Bischoff has the funniest theme ever. You have to imagine he's singing it. It's very important. Very, very important. All right. Everyone, have a great night. Enjoy Raw. Enjoy the Self-Made Sessions. Enjoy whatever it is you're doing on a Monday night. The Lost Colliders, whatever. Have a good one. And I hope to see you tomorrow for Grin Grappler, John Bradshaw Layfield. Keep grinning. All hail. Enjoy this outro. Leave those ballots, folks. I'll speak to you soon. Goodbye.